And here she is. Isn't she beautiful? This genuine 1978 XC Sundowner, only driven to church on Sundays by a little old lady. Hi, I'm Dave, and today we'll take a bit of a deep dive into exactly what we're starting with in this Resto project. For anyone who's been following me for a little while, you might be familiar with Delilah, my XC Falcon, and now our new project is the XC Sundowner. So first things first, let's get Delilah out of the way and move the Sundowner so we can take a better look. The first thing you might notice about the XC is that a lot of the panels are missing, and that's because I've taken the fenders, the doors, the tailgates, etc., and they're over at my current workshop because I can work on those over the next 12 months. I can't do much with the main car until it's on a rotisserie, and it's going to be at least 12 months before I've got the ability to get it up on a rotisserie and start stripping it down completely. So we'll work on the individual panels, and you'll see those in upcoming videos. But for today, I thought we'd have a bit of a close look at exactly what we're dealing with. The good, the bad, and somewhat ugly in some areas. And then it'll be about 12 months really before we come back and we start getting into this in detail. So let's have a look and see what we've got. This project actually started because my wife suggested she might like a panel van. My plan being that probably in sort of 12 to 18 months from now I'd try and find a van and we would restore it. Then this came up, and this, because it's actually a genuine XC Sundowner, which are rare as unicorn poo, I kind of had to pick it up about 12 months before I'd intended to have a car. But it's all told not in bad condition. I suppose that's subjective, but I'll say it's not in bad condition because from everything I've seen, I think I can fix it. And one of the key things and the reasons I bought this car is because of this. This is, while it doesn't look like much, this is the matching block. So the actual numbers of this match the car. All that's really left is the block and the pistons. Over in the parts section I do have a whole stack of parts for the engine, and we'll look at that in the next video rather than today. But having the matching block that we can turn back into an engine that matches the car, that's a genuine Sundowner, I really couldn't say no. Righto. Let's spin the camera around and go through the car end to end. So first up, if we look at the engine bay, one of the first things we can look at is that overall the firewall is really in pretty good shape all the way underneath. A bit of rust in this support panel here, but might have to either replace that or rebuild it. And importantly also, the torque boxes down here and these A-pillar supports, they're just in fantastic condition. You know, a little bit of rust down here on the sill, but the actual, I mean, these quite often, from what I've seen, they just disappear. They're just rotted out everywhere, and this is actually quite good, as are the torque boxes on both sides. Along the top here, we've got, you know, I'll probably end up replacing some of these parts, and the plenum has seen better days, but in truth, it hasn't rotted away. I mean, it's quite fixable. So I'll unstitch the plenum, drill out the spot welds, etc., and pull it off, and then we'll be able to see what we're dealing with inside. But even inside the inner plenum, it's not trashed. Right down in here, it's very difficult to see, and we wouldn't be able to show it on the camera, but there's like holes where the vent ducting comes through, and I can see particularly on the left hand side, that's quite rotted away. That'll all have to be rebuilt. And down here, you know, it still exists down here, but you know, I think it's going to take a bit of work, but it's certainly not a situation that can't be fixed. And anything like this, just repairing these parts of the plenum. Once the plenum's off, I'll literally just work on it by hand and rebuild it. The sides of the car are all pretty straight. I've looked for anything that looks like it might have had a ding, and it really doesn't seem to have been damaged. Any, you know, I'm not a panel beater, but you know, I can't see any major damage. These parts here, which actually connect the fender supports onto the plenum, you know, this is a little bit rusted away, but you can actually buy all these parts new, so I'll just get new ones of those and we'll go with them. And again, down this side, the torque box and the pillar, all fantastic. Similarly, if we look at the floors, they're pretty remarkable. Like there's no big holes through the floor. I actually noticed there's a hole just over here, which was drilled, so it's not a rust hole. So the floor on this side is quite good. In fact, better than quite good. They're pretty amazing, really. You know, I'm stoked at the condition of the floors, and we'll see in the back of the car, it goes all the way through and all behind the seats, etc. You know, the floors, they really are quite fantastic. From what I can see of the sills, and we won't really know until the car is on a rotisserie and we can get it all blasted and get a really good idea of you know, get rid of all the rust and see what we're dealing with. You know, there's a few sections inside the A pillar here. There's some rusted sections, but this actual sill seems to be pretty solid all the way. And from what I can see on the inside sill here, it seems really quite solid on both sides. So that's another win. I mean, all of this is repairable, and this sill seems to go all the way to the back wheel in pretty solid condition. So once it's blasted, we'll have a bit of a better feel. The quarter panels, they're another topic. We'll discuss those in a second. Just as a little aside, an astute car builder might notice here that there's something missing. Namely, there should be the engine substructure cross member across here, and it's been cut out. And apparently the reason they cut it out was because they were going to turn this into a drag car. I kid you not. And in fact, when I got the car, it had 2 drag tyres. So I've actually got those on Marketplace to see if I can flog them. But they were going to turn it into a drag car, so therefore they cut that cross member out so they could put a big engine in it. I now have to get that cross member and put it back. Exactly how I'm going to go about doing that, that's future Dave's problem, but I think I'm going to need a donor car and we'll cut it out and replace it. So a bit of a bummer on that one, but nothing insurmountable. And now we get to the main parts of the body. When I first saw the car, I initially had thoughts of being able to sort of repair these drip rails without taking the roof off. You know, thought maybe I could get under there, but the truth is they're shot. These are in really, really bad condition. So the roof is going to have to come off. It's going to have to come off for multiple reasons anyway, but having seen Howard Astle take his roof off his van, he's building a van as well, it gives me some confidence that I'll be able to do it. The roof itself is in really good nick, apart from there's quite a healthy dent there that I'll need to take out. But overall, the roof is really straight and not really rusted. You know, most of this along the rails here are surface rust, so what we'll do is I'll cut along the rail, get the roof off, and again, taking a leaf out of Howard Astle's book, I'll actually TIG weld another part of the roof on. So that's a long way away, but at least I know the basic process that I'm going to use to do that. And right down all around the windscreen here, it's all pretty solid, there's no rust, and even down the pillars here, this is only really surface rust, so I'm pretty stoked with how all of this part of the car is. So once we've got the roof off, then we need to look at the sides, and these are going to be a challenge. Because it's the Sundowner, It doesn't have side windows, so that's good. We've got this original panel, which seems in the centre parts of it is in reasonable condition. And similarly, as we'll talk about, in case you're not aware, the Sundowner, like the Holden Sandman, had the flip up, fold down tailgates. So I've got those there at the workshop. They are definitely going to be a challenge to fix because they're in pretty bad condition, particularly the top one. But again, that's future videos. For now, what we're looking at is what do I need to do here? So once I've realised that, yep, the roof's got to come off, the next obvious step will be to take these sides off. And I'm probably going to look to get these strip rails out as well. They're not in bad nick, these ones, but I think, you know, if we're going down this path, we may as well leave no stone unturned and actually look and see if I can get these off successfully without damaging them and maybe replacing them. But once they're off, this entire part of the car, it just basically sits and flops around. So all I should need to do under normal circumstances to get it off is around the back corner here, drill out the spot welds, and we should be able to free it up. But here's the kicker. A panel van is basically a ute with a top on it. So the quarter panels up to this area here where they bend in, this is all ute. Right? So it comes up, the ute goes in, this side panel then comes down and is spot welded onto there. Looking inside, it looks like it's going to be quite a challenge to separate without damaging, to actually separate these two sections. But, you know, we'll get there. I'm sure we'll be able to work it out, but I'm pretty convinced that I'm kidding myself if I think I can fix it without taking the sides off. One of the big things here is you'll see if I go along, if I get a bit closer, that the actual rust damage to the sides, like there's holes through here, etc., and down this back corner, I'll have to rebuild all of this. If I can get the side panels off, it actually won't be too difficult to fix because I'm just fixing the side panel. The quarter panel itself, and yes, this part looks very ugly, we'll talk about that in a second, but the quarter panels themselves are not too badly damaged. Again, this is rusted through here, this will all need to be repaired, and there's sections along, but most of what we're seeing on the quarter panel is surface rust, or, you know, certainly rust we can deal with. So I think if I can get the sides off and work on those separately, we'll end up, it'll come up pretty well. Now the quarter panels. Don't you just love the picture? Very 70s. It even has the artist's name down here in the corner written on the car. This won't be staying. I'm going to take it back to, the car is pine and lime. We're going to take it back pretty much to exactly the way it came out of the factory with only some very, very minor modifications. So we'll have all the Sundowner stripes will all be put back onto it. So this mural, unfortunately, I guess has to go, but yeah, that's the way it is. The quarter panels. Now, inside the doors, this is all solid, and again, overall, these sills seem to be pretty good. A little bit of rust work will need at the front. I might have to replace this front of this part of the sill. All that's doable. I'm not particularly concerned about any of that. And then we get down here, and there's a lot of rust, which is interesting because most of it is not in the sill, it's the bottom of the quarter panel. And as I cleaned out this quarter panel yesterday from the inside, you can see there's some old damage that's been repaired here, a bit of bog. But when I was cleaning it out, I actually realised I was poking holes right through. So this entire part of the quarter panel, I'm going to need to replace. The big question is going to be, can I fix these quarter panels without removing them from the car? I think I can. I'm reasonably confident that once I've got the roof and the sides off, and it's on a rotisserie and I can flip it over, you know, I should be able to just work through piece by piece. I'll have reasonable access from inside, and I think most of it will be repairable. Exactly how I would connect the repaired quarter panel back to the sill, I'm not sure, but we'll learn that one down the path. This back part of this sill you can see here absolutely needs to go. This is quite badly rusted and damaged under here, so I imagine we'll at least be replacing half the sill. If it gets too tricky, I'll just replace the whole lot. But all told, the rest of it in here, and even when I look inside the car, it's not bad at all. Down the back, yeah, this section here I don't even have to repair because it's gone. But the inner sill here, the inner quarter panel, this is quite badly damaged, so I'll have to repair that as well. But again, I think, the key word there, think, that I'll be able to do this without actually removing it from the car. If I have to take the quarter panel off, I will, but you know, we start to move to a mode of really testing my skill level for sure. But you never know. In here, there's some rust on this inner part. This is all going to have to be fixed. It's a bit ugly actually, so I'm going to have to replace, and that's not too bad around there, but you know, certainly fix up these wheel arches. Back's not too bad, but that one's gone. So there's a bit of work to do, but again, this is all going to happen when it's back up on the rotisserie. This side quarter panel is surprisingly good. There's very few holes, very little damage in it, except that for some reason they thought they'd strip the paint off this and then just left it. So this is going to take some treatment. I'll look up the best ways to actually do this and try and recover it. You know, I don't want to necessarily just remove all the rust. I want to see if I can convert some first, because that will actually, you know, help save more of the panel. But the steel's quite thick. You know, I'm sure it'll come up okay. And again, like the other side down here, this is just Swiss cheese. We'll replace all of these back quarter panels. You can actually get the pieces to replace on here, and then when you get around this corner, you know, some of these areas here, I'll just have to make new patches to fit. This is probably as good a time as any just to mention that, you know, I've spoken about getting the car onto a rotisserie and having it sandblasted to get all the rust out, all the paint off, etc. But I won't be doing that on the roof. So I'll be taking the roof off and I'll be hand stripping it, because if I took it into the blasters, there's every chance, you know, blasting causes heat in the steel, and when you've got a big surface like the roof, we could easily damage it and end up warping it. So I'll take the roof off and I will hand strip and hand work that one. Similarly with the sides, I'm going to strip those. I don't want the sandblasting happening on any of these. And even the quarter panels, my thoughts are I'll strip the quarter panels by hand, inside and out, and then what I can get them to do is, you know, use the blaster along these edges. So I'll have all this stripped, but they can go along here and really get any of the rust out, because where it turns over, where it's got corners or sharp curves, the blaster really isn't going to do much damage there, and then we'll just get the whole thing epoxied and we'll work through it. Okay, onto the inside. Inside the car really is pretty good. I mean, the floors are in fantastic condition, not just on this, but when you get up underneath. If we look you know, at the floor in here, they really are in good nick. There's virtually no, in fact, apart from surface rust, there's no major rust at all in here. If I look underneath in here, yeah, the fuel tank looks like it's in okay condition. We won't really know until we pull it out and flush it and check everything's okay. But I cleaned all of this out yesterday. Just let me get the light, hang on. There's my light. There we go. So I cleaned all this out, and you can actually see, so there's the holes that we're going through the outside of the quarter panel that we saw just before. But internally, it's quite remarkable. There's no rust apart from surface rust that's formed down the bottom. There's just a couple of the side wall inserts just sitting there. But yeah, all told, fantastic condition. And if we look at the inside walls that we were looking at just before from the outside, you can see that you know, there's holes here, they need to be repaired, but for the most part, all of this damage, because this wall, you can see it comes down and turns over on top of what is the ute body effectively, and then it's spot welded onto here. So the ute body itself, I think, is largely fine. You know, all the way along, it's not dreadful. This section here, the vans all have these little vents which are a bit ugly, and I'd remove those anyway, but that will, you know, I'll just be repairing this section, so that's all okay. I think someone's had a go on this side. Let me just move the light. I don't quite know what they were doing here, but it's the same thing. It looks like what they've tried to do though, maybe they were planning to do a repair, but they've actually bent the steel up all over the place here. I really don't know. I mean, they've obviously been trying to chisel underneath, and certainly this little section of what we'll call the ute wall, this is damaged. It would need to be repaired, but if I can get these sides off, this is an easy repair. That gives you an idea of what the original side vent looks like, and we'll take those out either way, even though there's no damage on that one. So we need to repair there. Again, this rust here, as far as I can see, for the most part, is only this side wall. So once the side wall's off, we just repair that rust, and again, this is okay. And looking down at most of the quarter panel in here, it all looks pretty good. You know, I'm sure we'll find some surprises once it's all been blasted and paint stripped, but all told, not too bad. And the same pretty much applies for these top rails. So you can see we've got the support rails of the roof. These are all in fantastic condition. These little tabs here, these are for the rails that support the roof lining. And, you know, they're not too bad, they just need to clean up. And again, most of the damage is on the side wall. So once the side wall's off, I'll just methodically work through and repair each part. There is a hole that's come right through the top here. That's easy, we'll just replace that section when we get to it. And again, super easy when the roof is off. And same here, and really across the other side, it's all about the same. It's not in bad nick. Oh, that's a nice juicy hole there. We'll have to fix that one as well, but again, easy once the roof's off. This surround for the rear tailgate, to be honest, is one of the areas that probably scared me the most, maybe still scares me the most. You know, there's going to be questions whether or not I need to get this drip rail off. I know that this entire section, watching how Howard Astle did it, it's about 3 or 4 different pieces of steel here. It's a bit tricky to get it off. If we need to do it, I will. But in here you can see this is quite damaged, so I have no real idea how I'm going to go about fixing this. We're probably just going to have to keep unstitching the car until we get to a point where I can repair each part of it. I mean, it's all repairable if we can get it off. Down here, my feeling is it looks like, I can't actually tell whether that's, I think this is where the sidewall's finishing, just here on this line, and then it's probably welded to an inner frame. Again, we'll know better once the sidewall comes off, and all of this is quite repairable. I'm not too concerned about that. Down the sides here, these are good, albeit inside the brackets that hold the captured nuts, etc., to hold the tailgate on, those brackets are all completely rusted away. They're basically gone, so I'll need to repair all those, but that should be okay. The other side's similar. This is a bit better, but up this top corner, you know, the rust has got in there. Looks like someone's had a good shot at, well, not a good shot, they've done a pretty crap job, to be honest, of repairing this. So the rust must have been there, but I don't know whether you can see it, but this is just some very rough bog that's been just shoved in the hole. So when I pull that out, it's probably going to be uglier than it even currently looks, but you know, it's a bit of a scary part of the car for me, but again, operative word, I think I can fix it. If you've been following me on Insta or Facebook, you may have seen that a few weeks ago I posted somebody else's post, reposted, where the guy basically said, if you want to learn a new skill, just get yourself in so deep that there's no choice but to keep going forward. And I think that's a pretty reasonable philosophy for what we're dealing with here. And finally, the interior. For the doors, we've got all the rubbers, etc. still here, but I'll probably be replacing all those. But importantly, these chrome rails that the window fits into, they are still here, they exist, and they look like they're quite fixable, so they're good. The seats are here, I don't know whether you hear this, but very, very crunchy. But again, we've got the seats, so that's just a reupholstering job. I've got the steering wheel and all of the cabling looms, so that's all nice. I'll take all of that out later on. But as you can see, the entire dashboard is missing. And in the next video, we'll have a look at what we've got of the dashboard, and there's going to be a few challenges involved in replacing this. But all told, you know, I'm sure we'll be able to get all the parts, find a console. A lot of these things are, you know, they're available, they're hard to get, they're certainly hard to get in good condition, but, you know, it's just going to be a gradual process of working through lots of time on Marketplace and seeing if we can find everything we need. Well, that's pretty much it for today's video, and it is going to be a fair while before we get to the point of actually working on the main body of the car. But in the meantime, over the next 12 months, you'll see me working on the various panels, the tailgates, etc. And we'll try and get all of those repaired and up to spec individually. And in the next video, we'll have a bit of a look at the various parts that I do have, get a feel for what I'm still going to need to find, and we'll just do a quick walk through there. So hit the subscribe button if you can, and thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.